Oh, my name is George Coleman. Georgecoleman.
And what's your date of birth?
24 August 21.
And second. So George, where were you born?
In Bridgeport, Nebraska.
Did you grow up in Bridgeport?
No, I grew up in southern Nebraska, Curtis, Nebraska to be exact.
Curtis, Nebraska.
Yeah, and then Alliance, Nebraska. My dad worked for the railroad. We moved around a little bit. Well, I had 3 brothers. My dad worked for the railroad. You know, it was during the Depression, and there's not really much to tell. As a kid, I worked on farms. You know, when I got old enough, I worked in harvest fields and hay fields, and when I was old enough to get out there, then I went in the Marine Corps. Well, I don't remember any values. You know, it was during the Depression, see, and things were really tough then. And you're lucky if you had something to eat, really. Even though my dad had a good job, or supposedly. But it wasn't just us, it was the whole area, just about, you know. There's just a few people that had more than enough. It was a tough time.
Yes.
I wanted to go to sea. So I went down and I took the test to go to the Navy, and the guy said, well, in 6 months we'll call you. I said, I want to go to sea now. He says, well, I said, where's the Merchant Marines? He says, well, why don't you go in the Marines? He says, I said, do they go to sea? He says, oh, sure. So I went over there, and they had this big sign for the Marines, you know.
What?
Guy was in on a ship or something. Anyway, I went and talked to this recruiting officer. Oh, I talked to the recruiting sergeant. I said, how long will it be before I can get in? He says, I think he said 9 days or 14 days, something like that. I said, let's go. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Was that in Omaha?
Huh?
That was in Nebraska?
Yeah. The closest place to enlist was Denver, Colorado. That's where I went in from Denver.
Why did you want to go out to sea?
Well, I guess because living in the Middle West, most of the guys in the Middle West, I think, went in the Navy. You know, they just wanted to go to sea. Want to get away from the land, right?
Have you seen the ocean before?
No.
You never saw it before. So you didn't know what the sea was like?
No, I didn't, but I liked it. even the trips that I made, I enjoyed going up on deck, you know, at night and watching the flying fish keep up with you and stuff like that.
Okay. So tell me, what was boot camp like for you?
Oh, boot camp was tough. Oh, in those days, see, you're doing that close order drill with, you know, the squads right, squads left, all this stuff, and it was kind of difficult to learn. And then when you had some guy that was, you always lined up according to your height, you know, when you start out, and this guy ahead of you, he didn't know his right from his left and confused things. Anyway, that's what, that was a close order drill. And I think, well, by the time I got to the Philippines, they had changed it to this modern drill that they do now.
And where did you go to boot camp?
San Diego.
San Diego. So let me ask you this: what was it like? You had just graduated boot camp. You got on your first ship,
Yeah.
the ocean, you went to sea. What were you thinking?
Oh, what I was thinking? I was thinking I'm finally at sea. No, first I I first went to Hawaii, and I was stationed in Hawaii for a while, and that was a short trip, you know. I think it was 7 days then. And I went over there on an Army transport, which was, the chow was good. That made a difference, and they treated you good. Not like the Navy transports. But that's the whole, there was nothing unusual about riding the Army transport. I liked it.
Did you, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking when you found out you were going to Shanghai?
Well, see, first I went to the Philippines. Went from Hawaii. I was there about maybe 3 or 4 months, and I went to Hawaii, or to the Philippines, and I, because of my height, I think, I got picked for to be on the Admiral's orderly crew, right? There, you know, I forget how many guys on there, maybe 7, 8, and I spent my tour in the Philippines as an orderly for the Admiral, which wasn't bad duty. Well, that was about it. It was just hot, miserable. Chow was lousy.
When you were on the ship going to Shanghai, do you remember pulling into port? What that looked like?
Well, see, what you do, you go up to Yangtze to Shanghai, and while we were in transit going up to Shanghai on the Yangtze, the Japanese Navy had a warship was coming down, and I thought, my God, this thing, yeah, these two ships can't pass in this river, right? But the Yangtze's a big river anyway. They had ruffles and flourishes, and everybody, you know, did their thing, and we finally got up to the wharf, and that was a big occasion. I never forget that. I was kind of nervous about that Japanese warship. We weren't really getting along with them too well, you know.
What was Shanghai like back in the 30s?
Well, I have a newspaper clipping that tells about the Marines getting into a fight at a nightclub. It says this Italian wanted to dance with this Marine's girlfriend, and she didn't want to dance with him, and he grabbed her and knocked her through the bass drum, and then the Marine grabbed the Italian and run his face up and down the piano keys for a while. And eventually, the next day, I'll never know, the next day these guys all had bandages on their head. I asked this guy, I said, what are you guys fighting with, table legs? And he says, as soon as that thing broke loose, they did. They broke the table legs and started bashing people's heads. But they killed Italian shore patrol officer in that deal. And Marines didn't do too well. I don't know whatever happened to the Marine's girlfriend.
What were your thoughts about the city? Did you like Shanghai?
Oh, well,
Was it interesting?
listen, it's the only time in my life I ever had enough money. You know, and in those days I was, today I feel I'm young. I think I was maybe 19 there when I went up there. And booze was cheap. And that was a bad sign, you know, and anyway, I had a good time in Shanghai, but I got an awful reputation. I got court-martialed several times and started riots. Done the whole ball of wax. I was active.
What was your duty when you were in Shanghai? What was your responsibility as a Marine?
I was guard duty. We went from one post to another. Used to guard the Suchow Creek, and all the billets. You had guards on the billets and the gate, and the quartermaster. And during certain periods when the Chinese had certain holidays while you went on patrol and patrol the streets. That's about it.
Do you remember the first time you ate Chinese food? What did you think about it?
I didn't eat Chinese food. It had a club, 4th Rangers Club on Bubbinwell Road, and that's where I ate. I wasn't eating Chinese food. No way.
What were the people like in Shanghai?
The Chinese, and it took very little to excite them, you know, and consequently, the Marines kind of rebelled against them. You know, I don't think I was the only guy that had a go around with them, but I got involved several, more than one riot, more than 2 riots. It was that area was bad. The Chinese were arrogant, and the Marines didn't back off.
It sounds like there was a lot of tension between...
Huh?
It sounds like there was a lot of tension at the time.
Well, you had a lot of different nationalities in there. You know, you had a big English regiment. You had a Scottish Seaforth Highlanders were in there. The French had a regiment in there. The Italians had one. It was an international city, and there, you know, things could go either way, right?
What did you miss the most from the United States when you were in China? What did you miss?
I don't think I missed anything. There's too much to do, you know. If you wanted something to do, there's always something to do. You know, if you could always go to the races. You know, they had dog races, they had horse races. What else they do? Hey, rugby there was a big thing. I never went into this kind of stuff, but it was there. And had to go to a lot of nightclubs. And the 4th Marines Club.
What was your favorite thing to do there? What was your favorite activity?
Well, I was at the stage when getting drunk was a big thing, I guess. I got drunk an awful lot. I wasn't much of an athlete. I didn't care to go out for baseball or any of that stuff. They tried to get me on the boxing team. In fact, I had a private coach. This guy was, he fought in the Madison Square Garden. And because I guess I got so many beefs, they give me this guy as a coach, and he's going to get me all ready to get into one of the smokers, you know. I went through that ordeal. I got scars from it.
Now, when you were with 4th Marine Regiment, were you there when they moved to the Philippines?
No, see, I come out of there 2 months ahead before they moved. Probably if they known that they were going to move out of there, that they wouldn't let me go back to the States. But my time was up in the Far East, you know, and so that's how I happened to go back.
What were you thinking when you found out that the regiment had been captured? Do you remember?
Oh. Yeah, I didn't really get the idea that they got captured. They just surrendered. I think the Japanese overwhelmed the whole place. You know, they had too many of them. I told you about this friend of mine that escaped from the concentration camp, and he spent the whole war over there killing Japs. He told me, but he had a chance that the government was going to pull him out of there if he wanted to come home, and he didn't want to come home. He wanted to stay over there and kill Japanese. Get even, right?
What was his name?
James Carrington. He's from New Orleans. He was quite heavily decorated in the peacetime when they had their parades, you know, for armistice and stuff like that. He was kind of a big shot in the parade. They always took care of him, but he died.
How did you meet Mr. Carrington?
How did I meet him?
Yes.
We were in the same platoon, in the 4th.
And you were guys were buddies. Did you go out together? And...
Oh yeah, we went out together some. Carrington had a love affair going with a Japanese girl, and at that time you couldn't go into Hongqiu, which is the Japanese sector, and it didn't make any difference to him. He went over to Hongqiu, and I was going to tempt that deal. There's nothing dragging me over there, but we used to go over there to fire the range and stuff like that.
What's your most memorable moment? What do you remember most about spending time with Mr. Carrington?
Spending time with what?
With Mr. Carrington. What's your most
your
best memory?
Well, his we got a big brawl in the barracks there one day. He and I took on a whole bunch of them, you know. Anyway, that was an ordeal. This one guy had turban on, and I don't know what happened to Carrington.
So how did your commander and the leadership, how did they deal with all those fights?
Well, like me, they put me on the boxing team for a while. And court-martialed. I had, I think, 3 court-martials over there.
Did you feel sad about that, or upset, or you just kept getting in trouble?
Did I get excited about
it? Just getting court-martialed. It sounds like a really bad time to get in trouble.
Well, didn't bother me. You know, they throw you in the brig for 10 days on bread and water. Doesn't bother me. I can do that on a helmet on my head. But you have to move around. You couldn't just sit in the barracks and look at yourself, right? Get in a rickshaw and run downtown. Hit somebody. Right? I'm lying.
So when you found out that the regiment had surrendered, what were you feeling? Were you upset? Were you angry?
I was surprised. I really didn't think. I think it had been a Army decision. I think those. I would think that those people would have headed into the hills, got away from them. You know, because Carrington got away from them, and he broke out of a prisoner of war camp.
Do you remember the day of Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. Yeah, what do you want me to tell you about it? I was in, when I come back to the States, I went to Hawthorne, Nevada, and every now and then on a weekend, we would take a bus, and those who had legitimate liberty would go to Reno and spend 72 hours up there, you know. And that was the day Pearl Harbor was hit. That Sunday we were getting ready to come back. And I remember stopping in Fallon, and I don't know why we stopped there, but anyway, we went over and had a few drinks. But I thought my Liberty Days roll with then, I didn't really, I thought they were tightened up, but things didn't change much, you know, till I got down into, I got transferred down to San Diego, and eventually wound up in that parachute battalion.
When Pearl Harbor happened, were you upset? Were you angry or sad? What were you thinking about?
I was surprised. See, when you think you got the big hunk of the Navy in there, and you got the biggest army post in the country there, you'd be surprised that they didn't have some way to alert them, right? And anyway, I went to Pearl Harbor just checking it out, you know, and years later. And I told the sailor, if you guys hadn't been all sleeping in that morning, those guys wouldn't have got you. Just trying to make a joke, right? But Sunday morning on the Navy was nothing. They didn't, I don't think they got up for food, that was about it.
Then you went to 1st Marine Division, is that correct? And then you served overseas?
Yeah, during the war, I went to the 1st Division.
What battles did you participate in?
I was down, in my discharge it said, no, I can't think of it. Well, I was in Okinawa, Peleliu, I can't think of these. New Guinea, and not in these sequence, but Talisea was a little combat thing. Cape Gloucester was a big one. Cape Gloucester, Peleliu, and then Okinawa.
It's tough fighting.
What?
That was tough fighting.
Tough fighting?
Tough battles.
Well, they're all tough, right? If people are shooting at you, it isn't fun. You have to keep a low profile.
How did you get through it?
How to get through it?
How did you get through it?
Well, I guess luck, and I got assignments that wasn't serious. You know, I spent my time sweating, but I always figured there's a man upstairs that kept me from getting shot, right? I don't think it's any talent of mine.
How about the other Marines?
How did they feel?
Yes.
Oh, I had good friends. I had jobs where I was off the line, and this one guy was a first sergeant in an outfit, and it seemed to me that he spent more time back there with me than his company did up there on the line, you know. So, doesn't surprise you. I'm surprised that they had any casualties at all. No, I'm kidding. Hey, Marines, I think, handled things pretty well. I don't think the Marine officers were so hot. When we went into Peleliu, do you want to go into this? Went into Peleliu, I understand MacArthur told this Marine general, he says, you really shouldn't go in there. He says, I'm advising you not to go. And Halsey told him the same thing, don't go in there. And the casualties in there, I understand there was 7,000 casualties in Peleliu. It was just a little island. The battle wagons fired at it for 2 days and they give up, they couldn't penetrate that coral, you know. See, they generally handed out, how many? They handed out a lot of beer, you know, and you didn't do anything for a while. Then all of a sudden you had to start training for another one, right? It took a while to train. There's a lot of training and a lot of new guys in there, and you didn't have it too tough really, except for the heat, the mosquitoes, lousy chow.
Do you remember the toughest training that you did? What was the toughest training that you remember?
During the war?
Yes.
Wasn't that bad, but the toughest training I ever had was in that parachute stuff, you know. Did you ever hear about qualifying to be a jumper? That was an ordeal. I'll tell you a little bit of it. We done, I think it was 350 deep knee bends, 350 push-ups, just went on. And then when we got through with that exercise, we run 7.5 miles. And we got through that, we had doctors that threw up, you know. That's the toughest training I had.
So you said you left the Marines in 1945. You joined the Army after that?
No, I went back to Denver and to get a job, and this guy, the union says, well, we got two places you can go serve an apprenticeship. Go as a baker or a meat cutter. And well, I figured, well, a baker, he works nights, and I'm a night. I'll go to meat cut, work days, right? So I worked a while as a meat cutter. Then I went to transfer down to Reno, Nevada, cut meat down there for a while, and I used to go by this firehouse, and these guys are all veterans in there, and they kept badgering me about what a easy life they had, and I thought, hell, I'll go in there and get a shot of that. So I spent a couple years on the fire department, and then I think then I went in the Army.
How many years did you do in the Army?
I got my 20, and I had over 20 years. I was in Japan in the Army. I was working in the commissary up there in run the meat market for 3 years, and then when I come back, I forget what the heck. Anyway, I know. I got to itch to go to school, so I went to fire control school on a surface air missile, and I went to school for 2 years on that darn thing to learn that system, and the rest of my military career, I was a fire control chief on a surface air missile. I was in the St. Louis Air Defense.
What rank did you retire as?
Master Sergeant.
Master Sergeant in the Army.
I could have made warrant, but I was afraid to go in front of that board with all those court martials, you know. Probably, I figured I was wasting my time, so. But I was getting the specialty pay and all this stuff, and I was doing good.
going back to your time with the 4th Marine Regiment, right?
Yeah.
In China. What's something that you would like people to remember about that service there in China? What would you like them to remember about the regiment?
Well, I think all those guys over there enjoyed it. You know, enjoyed being in China. It was good duty because the only thing you had a lot of schooling. You know, like in my case, I was in a machine gun they called it heavy weapons company. You know, you had the water-cooled machine guns, and you had the mortars, and you learned all the infantry weapons. Yeah, you know, you had to be able to put that machine gun back together blindfolded. It was good training.
Are you proud to be a Marine?
Yes, you know what? I was thinking when the guy first called, I thought, that Marine training I got kind of focused on the rest of my life. I was known as a tough NCO, you know. I thought that's a carryover for the Marine Corps. I didn't believe in any fool. If I had a job to do, I didn't believe in any foolishness that was going to get it done, right? And I think it was a carryover for the Marine Corps training, or ideal training.
Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I don't. No, I'm surprised that they located me. That's what I'd like to add. I can't believe that there's I can't hardly believe there's 88 left. Can you? And see, I was just a kid when I went over there. And I'm an old man now, I think. I'll be 95 in a couple of weeks. So there can't be many people, and those people were all older than me. What do you think? Do you think there's any around?